steps I use when making beats and producing tracks. Hey everyone, I'm Jimmy Greco. I've been fortunate enough to create and produce music for over 30 years. My credits range from some of today's biggest stars like Jennifer Lopez, Carlos Santana, Beyoncé, and many more. My goal today is to get you inspired and share my beat-making process so that you could begin creating original tracks to call your own. I've come up with 10 steps that I always take when creating a track, and I'll show you the process from start to finish. To get the most out of this video, I really suggest that you stick around to the end, but if you want those steps right now, they are: Step 1, identify the genre. 2, get the right sounds for the genre. 3, sampling, how and when to do so. Step 4 is setting your tempo. 5, create a 2 or 4 bar looping sequence. 6 is quantizing and swing. Step 7 is adding additional instruments to create moods and melodies. Step 8 is getting the right mix. 9 is building arrangement. And finally, step 10 is bouncing your project and saving your work. I'll also share a bonus step that I think would definitely improve your beat making skills. So keep watching. Let's get into it. This is my setup. I have the Native Instruments Maschine controller box, followed by the computer keyboard, followed by my full piano controller. I'll show you how I use the Maschine and piano as we go, but for now, let's get to the steps. Step 1, identify the genre. This is the easiest step, and I assume most of you watching already know the genre that you want to create within, like hip-hop or dance. So although this may seem like an obvious step, I put it first because it'll give you some guidelines when it comes to identifying sounds and picking the tempos. Before I create, I often listen to some references of songs or similar tracks that'll really help me identify the tempo and core sounds that I should be using. That usually helps me build my initial sound template. Yes, we want to create something original, so be mindful not to copy the melodies or lyrics. Just study the references for arrangement and inspiration. Today I want to create an energetic soundtrack to use for this tutorial. So I know I'm going to need some hard-hitting kicks, snares, stabs, and more, which leads me to step 2, the sounds. Sounds are the essential ingredients to your beat, so getting them right is crucial. Start developing and organizing your sound library in a way that works best for you. To begin that process, I'm going to give you a gift, my free sample pack. This pack consists of sounds taken from various packs I've created, and it includes all the sounds that I'm going to use in creating today's final beat. It will at least get you up and running, and the best part, it's completely free. Just go to jimmygreco.com/free pack and scroll down to get my free pack where you can download it and join along. Let's check out some of the sounds that are included in my free set. I'm going to create today's track in Maschine Studio, but if you're interested in seeing how I produce in programs like Logic or Pro Tools, check out the links I've listed in the description below. Step 3, sampling. When I began drum programming, I used to sample drums and loops from vinyl records while creating tracks. But since the sample laws are a lot more complicated these days, we're going to start with a live loop that I recently played. That's also included in my free pack. Let's check it out. Now that we have my drum loop, let's go to step 4, setting the tempo. Look for a metronome or click on your device. On Maschine, I use the tap tempo option. So while the drum loop is playing, I'm going to start tapping along. Okay, right here it says 86.43 beats per minute, and I'll set that to 86 beats per minute. Step 5. Create a simple 4-bar loop. So here we go. All right, so now that I have this 4-bar loop, I'm going to add a kick, snare, and hi-hat. I played it loose for a reason that I'll explain soon. Now that I have this basic part, we're going to go to step 6, quantizing and swing. I'll get a bit technical here, but follow along so you could better understand this process. Now that I've created this beat, you may have noticed there is a grid in the background of my programmed notes. Think of that grid as a virtual exact measure of time. It helps you visualize how close to exact time your notes are. The degree in which those notes are pulled closer to the grid is called quantization. The percentage of quantization applied will determine the feel of your beat. So 100% is totally tight to the grid, and anything less will feel looser and more human. Being off the grid could be a good thing. However, when it comes to pop music, most of the elements are fully quantized. The best way for you to understand it is to hear it, so let's check it out. I played this part really loose to show you the effect once Quantize is applied. Listen to the groove as I played it unquantized. And now, quantized at 100%. Watch the notes as they get pulled closer to the grid. The swing was designed with the intention to move your notes off of the grid, giving them more of a human swing effect. Check out this track going from 100% quantized with 15% swing applied. Okay, that feels right for me. It feels less electronic and has more bounce and groove. A general rule is the tighter the note is to the grid, the more electronic and less human it feels. The more you practice, the better your performance will be. But quantizing and swing will improve your performance imperfections in the meantime. There's no universal quantize or swing setting that I always use. Once it gives you the feeling you're looking for, that's when it's right. Step 7, adding additional instruments. I'm going to create a part using this brass sound. It'll give the track some drive and energy. In Maschine, when you select a pad, you could play it on the full range of your keyboard as long as you have a MIDI connection. You could see as I'm playing the part, it's not quantized, and it needs to be. So I'm going to select all of the notes and quantize them so it's a lot tighter. I want to add this additional brass just to thicken it up. Then, like before, select those notes and quantize. Adding a low bass is going to make it full. feels like it's got a really good groove to me. So I'm going to continue to support it with additional sounds from my sparkles and glue kit. It'll give it a higher production value. Now that we have a solid loop, I want to balance the sound levels, which leads me to my next step. Step 8, mixing and mastering. Mixing and mastering is truly an art in itself, and I've learned a lot of tips and tricks throughout several years of practice. There are people who specialize in that alone. I'll have more videos that go into depth on my mixing and mastering process, so be sure to look out for that. For now, I will share a few basic tips that I'll begin applying to this track. A good rule to follow is start with the kick, snare, hats, and bass. Once those are balanced, move on to other instruments. I know a lot of beat makers want their tracks to be super hot in volume. A safeguard tip is to put a limiter on your mix bus and set it to -1 or 0 dB as a simple fail-safe measure. Step 9, build a musical arrangement. Step 9, build a musical arrangement, which is often the hardest part for some of us creatives. I've got a lot going on in this loop, and I need to start thinking about how to structure and arrange it into a song. Let's look at a basic song structure and work from there. Start with a 4-bar intro into an 8-bar verse, followed by a 4-bar B section into an 8-bar chorus, into an 8-bar second verse, then a 4-bar B section into a chorus 2 for 8 bars, followed by an 8-bar breakdown that really builds into a 16-bar outro. Hit save. We finally made it. Step 10, completing and bouncing your project. Now that I have a finished song, I'll continue to listen down, make some production and mixing tweaks, apply final mastering tools, and export my mix. We made it to the bonus step that I mentioned earlier in the video. I want to give you this bonus step because I know it will really help your creative learning process. I call it 5 beats in 5 minutes. The concept is to begin loading in numerous sounds, setting a 1-minute timer, and begin programming. The goal is to create 1 basic beat per minute, then continue to move on to beat 2 and 3 and so on up to 5 minutes. This keeps you from spending too much time on any one track and will improve your programming skills when those creative juices are starting to flow. I'll do a 5-minute, 5-beat video and put it in the description below. I hope that this video got you inspired and taught you some tips that took me years to learn, develop, and figure out. I know it was a long one, but if you watch it a few times and start applying these techniques, it will really improve your beat making and production skills. For us creatives, don't try to rush or use AI shortcuts for everything. Put in the time to learn and take the time to do it right. If you love what you do, then do it relentlessly and don't ever give up. I'll leave you with that. See you next time.